And we Best Bets show, hosted by Field of 68, presented by BetRivers. You guys know the deal. We're back again. Excuse us for our absence on Wednesday. It does happen, but you're going to get the weave 3 straight days here, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The slates are getting bigger. They're getting better. We are fully into college basketball. And speaking of that, quick little note before we start our show, BetRivers, they have a parlay boost, 4 legs, 20% boost. Check out their app right now. And there's also a Champions collection in the Field of 68 store. Very exciting. Did you know there was a Field of 68 store, guys? I did as well, but maybe the people at home don't.
Strong merch there.
There is some funny shirts out there. 20% off that merchandise with the code Champions until the Champions Classic, which I believe is...
It's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay, so yeah, Field of 68. Check it out.
I just think of Greg Waddell wearing the Daddy Brad Illinois shirt. That's just
Daddy Brad Illinois shirt is probably the best shirt they have in the whole collection. So BetRivers parlay boost and Field of 68 merch boost. Boom, done. Takeaways from yesterday, real quick. Jim, Wednesday, not a big slate of games necessarily, but what'd you see out there?
Well, Kai, looks like the rebuild at Louisville is going to take a while.
Love it.
Have to mention it. It's one of the 10 flagship brands in college basketball. And they lose to Bellarmine, who plays in their old gym and is a local rival. And Scott Davenport was an assistant there. Actually, it was a little, that's impressed is the wrong word, but Louisville came back. They were down 10 the entire second half, could have folded it up. At least they battled and had a possession to win it, but it's bleak, Matthew, and I can't figure out how to rate that team.
Speaking of teams, how to rate LSU, thoughts on them? I thought they were very, very dicey against a UMKC team. And maybe this is just a fact that I think the Roos are bad this year and might better than I thought, but was not very impressed from the little I saw of the Tigers. So I think that's a rebuild that will take some time to marinate, Kai.
I watched a lot of that game.
I just think KC is a feisty dog always, especially with Menzies. I just think that spread was too big. As I said on our podcast last night, so you guys can check me on that.
Yeah, receipts are here.
Hindsight Harry here.
They mucked it up defensively. They played a lot of zone, a lot of extended stuff to slow LSU's tempo down. It was perfect underdog strategy. LSU will be okay, I think, against more equal competition.
Yes, I agree. I'm just going to echo Jim, Louisville Bellarmine. Oh, man. So obvious Bellarmine was going to win that game. I love it. Their ball movement compared to Louisville's, night and day. Fantastic. All right, let's get into the slate, guys. A really good slate, in my opinion, today. Jim's on the chat mob duty, so fear not. Matthew has no responsibilities today. He just has to sit there and look cute. Mission accomplished, Matthew.
Check.
Game 1. Towson at UMass. Can you believe it? This is the game of the day. It's going to be a great game, guys. UMass took money this morning. Opened up as a +1 dog at BetRivers. Now up to -2.5 at our esteemed hosts. Matthew, does Frank Martin have himself a squad this year?
Yes. He's got dudes, got dogs, whatever cool saying you're into. The talent's always been there with UMass, right? I mean, he brought in some key guys this year, but talent's never been UMass's question. They've just lacked every set of structure and discipline defensively. Now they bring in Frank Martin, who has, his defenses are more helter-skelter, a little more sporadic, but there is some organization to them. It's a guy who I just trust to build a better defense. They look really good in their first game. So I think UMass stomps them, but wins comfortably tonight. I was going to take them as my best bet. I can't endorse it at -2.5. I would have said -2. So I'm going with a back pocket best bet to come later in the show. But for now, I think -2.5 is still worth a smaller bet. I'll say that.
Yeah, I would agree. Towson was the CAA champ and returned 4 starters. And I think it was all right, juggernaut, keep on rolling. 3 first-team all-conference preseason guys. But they lose their point guard, and I think that matters a lot. The straw that stirs the drink kind of thing, Kai. He was the guy for them, Terry Nolan.
Yeah.
And now it shifts. Is Radir Hicks going to be able to play that role? He started against St. Joe's in the exhibition, came off the bench in their opener. It's pretty much all Cam Holden playing point forward almost. And that takes him out of what he's best at, slashing from the wing. I don't love the makeup of them right now. I think they're still figuring it out. UMass has a lot of turnover too, but I'm pro UMass here as well, Kai.
Yeah.
Towson only played 7 guys in that first game. Kind of concerning.
That's a point that Scary actually took criticism for. In his press conference, he got a little defensive about it. But Pat, you got to play more than 7 guys, man. And it's possible they flew too close to the sun last year. It was their best season ever.
Yeah.
It's probably foolish to think they improve upon that. Now, I still think they're a very good team. They're very tough. They're well coached. But UMass, man, is deep this year. I don't care if their team is brand new. They have a major upgraded head coach in Frank Martin. Like I said, super, super deep.
Hey,
And they have the
Field of
size.
68's Matt McCall, Kai. You watch your tongue.
Oh, is he? Sorry, Matt. My bad. And then they have the size to combat scary ball on the glass, right? There's a lot of size up front for UMass. I like UMass too. I agree with the line move here. So I'm leaning towards the Minutemen, even at -2.5. Next game, another doozy here. Southern Illinois at Oklahoma State. Some are calling it the Barry Hinson Bowl. Just me. I'm just calling it that. Barry Hinson on staff at Oklahoma State, used to coach SIU. Jim, this maybe opened lower than most people expected. Oklahoma State took a little bit of money, I think around 8.5. I don't have my updated odds on me. Oklahoma State just won by 11 against UT Arlington, but they're up by 31 with 11 to go in that game. What do you think?
I kind of lean towards SIU. It's a weird clash of styles. Like Oklahoma State wants to play kind of a goofy zone, turn you over, get running. They want to run offensive possessions, score in transition because they're not a great half-court offense. But SIU wants to slow it to a crawl, execute in the half court. Matt, one thing here that I think is important to note, SIU played Alabama in an exhibition game, and there are few teams in the country that want to push tempo the way Alabama does. SIU was down big late in that game, but they ended up losing by 9, had a little bit of a backdoor. If there was a spread on that game, it would have been a backdoor cover. So I think they're a little bit accustomed to a team that wants to push the tempo. That helps. And then last little factoid, similar to the Ed Cooley one from 2 days ago, last 30 games as a favorite of 8 or more, Oklahoma State is 10-20 against the spread. It's just they're not built to cover big numbers with the way their offense is. So I'm leaning towards SIU, the dog, and then I also did bet the under 135. Not my best bet for the show, but it is something that I'm on. I think they control the tempo.
Yeah, it does seem like Oklahoma State, anecdotally, I'm glad Jim has some data to back my anecdote up, that they're not a great large favorite, especially the way this team's constructed. I know there's, losing likely bringing in a little more offensive firepower, a little bit emphasis on a little, because I think they're still light on shooting. Just not a team I want to back as a favorite. So I'm with Jim. I'm a little worried about Southern Illinois' ability to score. They just played a porous defense in Little Rock and ripped it to shreds. Now they go up against OSU's defense, which is vaunted, especially up front. So if they're not making shots, I worry about their ability to score, inside 15, 10 feet.
Yeah, I lean towards SIU as well. They blew out Little Rock, looked impressive. This is the best team Mullins has ever had. Very physical. It should be a game that's interesting with tempo perspective, guys. Oklahoma State runs, SIU slows it down. Who wins the battle of the tempo? Too close to call for me. Spread's a little bit too low, but I'd be surprised if this game's double digits. I lean towards the Salukis. Next game, Vermont at St. Mary's. An awesome mid-major matchup, Matthew. Two of the very best mid-majors we have. Hey, here's some facts for you. Vermont took a little bit of money early on with good reason. They are ridiculously tough as a dog. I looked into it as double digits. Excuse me. I'm going to restart. Last year, they lost to Providence by 10 points. Before that, they hadn't lost by double digits since 2020. They haven't lost a non-con game before that since 2019 by double digits. In that span, they've played Arkansas, Maryland, Virginia, Louisville, Florida State, and Cincinnati. My point is, Matt, they're a really good underdog. But this game.
I know, and the spread is closer. Actually, Vermont's taking some money. It's down to 7.5 now, but your point stands. Like, it's just a team that John Becker is like almost immune to being blown out, and especially with the talent he's brought in there the last few years. Like, it used to be solid talent, elite execution. Now it's elite execution and neighboring on improving talent. So he continues to raise that program, at least its standards. But St. Mary's just super impressive what they did to Oral Roberts. I know that final score looks a little closer, but they were controlling that game. I think the Gales are all the way legit this year. Another one where I'm not betting, just will have the feet up and popcorn ready.
So Vermont, they played really small in their first game. They played 4 guards and a forward, or they had Dylan Penn operating a little bit as a forward at times. I think that's a problem against St. Mary's, who's brutish up front with Mitchell Saxon and Kyle Bowen. I think they'll be able to get some easier buckets inside. St. Mary's was up big on Oral Roberts, 15, and then kind of the 3-point shooting of the Golden Eagles brought him back. I lean towards St. Mary's here at 8, -7.5, -8. I know how good Vermont is as a dog, but this is a huge travel spot. And St. Mary's is a home favorite. I also really like too. they should have covered that Oral Roberts game, if not for a couple late threes and late fouling.
Yeah, St. Mary's was up 21 in that game before the Eagles made a comeback. I mean, that's impressive. Vermont, their guards are good. Deloney put on a show in his first game. Dylan Penn, obviously good. But Shungu and Davis are big losses. And, man, there's a mismatch inside with Saxon, with the size of the Gales. They should dominate a small front court. I like the Gales, too, here. I lean towards St. Mary's. All right, next game, guys. And we apologize about the stream. I think we're only streaming on Twitter currently as our producers work behind the scenes to figure out the YouTube stream, which might have ended. We'll see.
I believe it ended.
Well, we're on Twitter, I guess. No chat mob. Sad.
I got some questions at least.
That's good. Western Kentucky at Eastern Kentucky is where we're going next. The Battle of the Bluegrass
State. Yeah.
Ew, almost forgot that.
Directional Kentucky.
Here's what I say, Matt. Points, lots of points, but the market knows that too. It opened up at 152 at BetRivers. It's up to 158. Kai's going to take best bet the over still at 158. Why? Eastern Kentucky plays the most exciting 40 minutes in sports. That's how they brand it. Sprint up and down the floor with a fully healthy roster. Excuse me, Matthew. A.W. Hamilton's going to go this season. So I think this game plays a lot higher possession-wise than projected. Last season only saw 73 possessions, still had 165 points. I'm taking the over here. What do you think?
Yeah, West Kentucky will gladly sign up for any sort of track meet. They don't really have like a pace at which they dictate. I know Sharp has kind of slowed it down, or he can at times just because he's such an anchor up front, but he also runs the floor pretty well. In general, I just think you're right. It's a pinball pace. And when you're taking a stale number on a really high total, I'm actually okay with that. Like, I think people are probably like, wow, why are we endorsing a total that's 5 points above the opener?
Not a stale number.
Sorry, not stale.
Like
just
153.
Yeah, been bet into a worse number, I guess. But I just think that the precision of the value at numbers closer to 160 and higher just isn't as strong. So I think this game can go completely bananas. I really do. I think Kai's all over this one. Nice job, Kai.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah,
good pick.
Agreed. I took this at a stale number, Matthew.
Sorry.
I can't recommend that anymore.
Number.
But last year, Kai, you mentioned, only had 73 possessions. Western Kentucky had like 4 guys. Jarris Hamilton was out. Josh Anderson was out. And they still were willing to run a little bit. Now with a lot more depth, I think this is 77 to 80 possessions, potentially 80 plus. And that's huge for such a high total. I think the efficiency will be fine. Eastern Kentucky is really young. They're talented, but young. They brought in a really good freshman class. So I think the spread makes sense. I didn't really have any sort of a lean on a side, but I'm with Kai. I think we see a ton of points in this one.
Last 2 years, Kai, Western Kentucky, 79 possessions in 2021, their season opener against Northern Iowa, 80 possessions last year against their season opener at Alabama State.
Yeah.
Insert this season.
Probably. Yeah, they like to run.
79 against Northern Iowa is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see the matchup with Jamarian Sharp, the 7'6" guy for Western Kentucky. EKU spreads it out. They can spread him out, pull him to the perimeter. They shoot a lot of threes. They shot 43 pointers on Monday against a non-D1 team. Curious how he does on the floor. And I'm not really worried about him offensively. Cozart is strong enough to probably hold him off inside. We don't trust Western Kentucky as a favorite, Jim, by the way.
No. Bad as a favorite. Way better splits as a dog for Stansbury. I bet Western Kentucky will zone some. They've been doing that a lot with Sharp just to kind of keep him in the middle rather than getting pulled out by shooters. But I think they'll be able to crack it. It's not a great zone.
No. Okay, that takes us to Chat Mob break number 1. And of course, the Chat Mob is not on currently because YouTube is having problems. It's not on our end, guys. It's YouTube's fault. But Jim, did you manage to write down a couple questions from the mob?
I've got 7 questions from the mob, so we'll do 4 now, and we'll save 3 for the latter part.
Great news.
Pat Taylor's best bet of the day, San Francisco covering as favorite against Cal
the
Poly.
Dons.
Matt, why is he right? Why is he wrong?
I don't know. I feel like I'm disrespecting Cal Poly. They are really, I guess, rated very highly in the analytic markets. The Dons have taken some money. I think they're good this year. I just think it's a biggish number against a Poly team that I respect less than both of you, but still respect. Still respect.
All right, next question, Kai. NC Central headed to App State, about a 5.5, 6-point spread. Appalachian State lost a lot from last year, like all 3 starting guards. NC Central hung with Virginia. How do you see this one?
I think it's too low. I lean towards App State here, and maybe a little scary just considering App State I don't think of as a very good favorite necessarily, and NC Central showed they could.
Kai
that's a great. That's kind of a De Niro face.
I'm a big fan.
I love that.
I'm a big fan of it.
That's
Taking
good.
App
We'll
State.
crop that.
Yeah. So
No, Kai, you froze. We were making fun of you.
towards App State there.
You guys both froze for me. Was it
Well,
my end?
I don't know. Who knows?
We'll blame you.
Having
It's my
TDs
end.
today. A little technical
Shoot.
difficulty.
App State.
Yeah. Kai says Pat State. Matt, Battle of Illinois. Illinois State at Eastern Illinois. Illinois State already lost to one directional Illinois school. Do they make it a second? They're about a 10-point favorite here.
I don't have any appetite to bet either team in this game. Like betting EIU makes me want to hurl, and Illinois State didn't look so good against Western Illinois, letting Rob Jeter and co make a pretty seismic second half rally. So yeah, hard to stay away. Two teams I have no idea what they are.
I lean towards Illinois State, but I had a lot of hesitation after their opener.
Number feels short. I will agree with that.
All right, last one before we get back to the outline. Kai, a brutal showdown here in Alabama. North Alabama, very short road dog at Alabama A&M. This number's come down a little, 2.5 to 2, down to 1. What do you think?
I lean towards North Alabama, but I could just be biased towards the A-Sun. When I'm talking to Tony Pujol, that's right. That's their coach's name for
Lions.
No one knows that. He said how motivated they are this season to finally be eligible for the postseason. Now, are they going to sniff it? No chance. But they're a tough, gritty team. They're pretty well coached. I think they can pull a win here against Alabama A&M, who is fine. Fine team.
They're fine.
Matt
Jim, loves them.
Swag bias from Matty Cox here. Go Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs.
All right, Kai, I'll kick it back to you to the outline. I'll save a couple other chat questions for the end.
All right, let's go to Gardner Webb at Stephen F. Austin. Man, another sneaky good mid-major game. I like both teams, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Jim, no surprise Gardner Webb took a little bit of money after an early SFA push, kind of pushed the lineup a little bit, because Gardner Webb competed with Colorado State. They probably should have won that game.
Yes.
But is Colorado State maybe a mess without Isaiah Stevens? Do you foresee them upsetting SFA outright today?
Probably not an upset, but yeah, I mean, Colorado State didn't have Stevens or Josiah Strong, the Illinois State transfer, rather
Big
important. I don't know, man. SFA just announced today Montavious Murphy will not be playing with them. The Kansas State transfer was supposed to make a decent impact in the paint, but I think they looked pretty solid in their opener. Day Hall had a big game. I think he continues to have a huge season for them. Gardner Webb, can they handle the pressure, Matt? I think the ball pressure of SFA is really the big question here, and probably what would spook me off of backing G Webb.
Yeah, and just the spot for Webb too, right? Although we just saw South Dakota State do a pretty strenuous, go to Akron, compete, lose in overtime and then go over to Boise and win there. So maybe we're overplaying these non-conference travel. It's still early in the year, right? It's not like there's a cumulative effect of wear and tear yet, where it's still November 10th. And the Bulldogs are good. We like the running Bulldogs.
Yeah. Hey, I backed them on Colorado State. They almost got forked late, but then they found a run in the final 4 minutes to save themselves.
The running Bulldogs, maybe the weirdest mascot in college basketball, if you really break it down.
I lean towards SFA, guys. I'm going the other way here. It's a front court versus backcourt thing. So Gardner Webb's front court's really good. Reed, Dufiel, probably the meanest front court in the Big South. And that does pose a problem for Day Hall. Like Jim mentioned, he's a stud. He's only 6'5", though. He's going to see some severe opposition
SFA is little
against Gardner Webb. But like Jim said, I'm worried about the ball handling for Gardner Webb, man. They're going to see pressure here. They're going to turn it over. They turned it over 16 times against Colorado State. I would guess they turn it over 20 times against SFA tonight. Their backcourt's legit. Jossel, former Kansas guy, Jackson Posey, and Rhodey Ware back in the lineup. How exciting for him.
ACL boy, welcome back.
ACL boy, welcome back. So I lean towards SFA. What is that? Probably 5.5, 6 out there. I'm not sure exactly what it's at right now.
5, like it. Into
5. Yeah, I do like it at 5. Next game, UC Riverside at Loyola Marymount, a California clash. Matthew, LMU took a lot of money. Went from 4.5 all the way to 7, back down to 6 at BetRivers. Riverside didn't look great against Colorado, Matt. I'll give them that, but the shooting splits were tough. What do you think?
They were. I feel like this must be Loyola-based money. That's my guess. Or maybe the market knows an injury that we don't for Riverside. But Damian Douglas missed last game for LMU. I don't know what his status is. I think he's out again.
Yep.
They are deep. They are talented. But yeah, I mean, the Magpies are a darling of mine. I'll probably back them irrationally throughout the year at certain spots.
Can you explain Magpies to the
Mike Magpeo, the Fighting Magpies, the head coach of UC Riverside, and we call him Magpies, and thus the Fighting Magpies. One of the biggest analytics data raid type adopter. So a guy who's lifted a program far beyond what it ever was. Jim, thoughts on this game? Like, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. I lean Riverside on the number, but I don't really trust it.
Yeah, lean towards Riverside as well. I was on them in the first game against Colorado, lost, but I think the true score of that game was a lot closer than the final 16-point margin shows. Yeah. Riverside was 4 of 21 from deep, and Colorado was 6 of 13. So that's tough split. This Riverside team isn't as stout in the paint. Like last 2 years, they've been elite defensive rebounding, a lot of size at the rim, good 2-point percentage defense, not quite as stout, but LMU's figuring out life without Eli Scott as well. And their opener was against Life Pacific, a complete joke of a matchup. You didn't learn anything. So yeah, lean towards Riverside, not a very strong one though.
Yeah, lean Riverside as a dog. They're still big. They got like 2 6'10" guys. I think they start. Gotta wonder how LePepe handles that for LMU. 6'6" bowl of a forward. Yeah, very good comparison actually. A Hawaiian Charles Barkley. Is he Hawaiian? I don't know if he's Hawaiian.
Polynesian.
I think
Polynesian,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, lean Riverside as well. Next game, Nichols State at Wyoming. Nichols has been a feisty non-conference dog historically under Austin Clunch. So basically the last 3 or 4 years. They beat Northern Iowa last year, and they've competed with power programs over the last couple. But Jim, they got their doors blown off them against Arizona. What do you think about this game heading to a tough little travel spot at Wyoming?
I kind of like Nichols here, and the numbers come down to a point or two. They were just completely overwhelmed in the paint by Arizona. Arizona shot 77% inside the arc, just thrashed them. That up and down, they played 88 possessions. That game turned into a pickup game pretty quickly. But Graham Ike is out for Wyoming, and they have no other paint threats, Matt, unless you're, posting Maldonado is fine. That works, but that's not really what Nichols is vulnerable against. They're vulnerable, like the big, bulky, big guys. Tubelis and Ballo killed them for Arizona. Hunter Thompson, Max Agmon-Polo, those guys are perimeter. They don't want to be in there trying to thrash this Nichols defense. So I think this is one where Clunch's boys can stay competitive and keep inside that number the whole way.
Yeah, it seems like people are envisioning a lot of points in this game. It's been pet up 7 points from the opener up to like mid 150s at this point. Probably, I think you look at the Nichols pace at Arizona and you think they're just going to run, sort of non-conference, see what happens. And Wyoming probably has to adapt a little bit without Ike, shoot more threes, maybe some more pace, to get some early looks in transition from 3. So I guess all that does lean toward the over. I'm just trying to reverse engineer the market logic here, Kai.
No, that's it.
I'm with Jim on the side. I think Nichols is actually pretty good play at +16 without Ike.
Yeah, feels touch high. To Jim's point, Tubelis had 23, Ballo had 18 against Nichols.
They were 15 for 18. Those two come back inside the arc. They just destroyed them.
Nichols' front line is terrible, so not having Ike is enormous. I would lean towards Nichols as well. They're well coached. Austin Clunch, our dude, Austin Clunch is a good coach.
Yeah, he is
Wyoming's a good coach too. 2 good coaches in that matchup. Cleveland State at Cincinnati finishes us off. A big says Kai. Because, Matt, I like Cincinnati this year, and Cleveland State just lost to a non-D1 team, but I can't help but think the line is a little bit high. What do you think?
It is a little high. Yeah, been up to 22. Part of me just wants to gut play Cincinnati and believe that my gut is accurate and that Cleveland State may just be a lot worse than I thought they were, even though they have some feisty guys coming back from last year's nucleus under the direction of first-year head coach Al Robinson, who was the former Iowa State assistant. You kind of can get like in Houston. So you get like the Iowa State, Houston, grimy, mucky defensive first type of identity with this team. Should play well as a dog. But Jim, I like Cincy. I think they're in for a little bit of a, not a takeoff this season, a blast off, but just a slight climb up the AAC ladder.
Yeah, they're deeper. Cincinnati's deeper, longer. They're pulling out the Wes Miller press that he did at Greensboro. Didn't run it much at all last year because he didn't have the length. They were more bigger and plotting in the lane last year. So I think that definitely helps them as a favorite, but it's too high. It feels a little like LSU last night.
Yeah.
Relatively high number. Dog just lost to a non-D1. Maybe they're terrible, but I don't know. I think this team profiles a lot better as a muck it up underdog, the same way UMKC did. So I think it's a little high. I like the under, despite some of that Cincinnati pressure. I think Cleveland State's going to be an under team all season. So
I'd agree. I thought Robinson would be a defensive coach and focus on that end. I think he will. They're not devoid of talent. Inaruna was a top 70 player. He had a good game against that non-D1 team. This JUCO guy, Tay Williams, is supposed to be an athletic freak. So there's talent on the roster. Cincy, though, 4 starters back, Landers Nolly, Matt's boy, Rob Fennessy. That's a tough, deep team.
Robbie Fins.
I wouldn't be surprised if Cincy made a push for an at-large, but I do think it is a bit of a high spread here. So I'd lean towards Cleveland State as well at 22.5 at BetRivers.
There's a chance Cleveland State scores like 40. And
Yes.
that's the concern.
Yes, there's a really good chance that happens. Such ends our rundown. We now head to Chat Mob break number 2.
Break number 2. I don't think any of these are stepping on your best bets, so we're good.
Already
there.
said mine. We're good.
Attaboy, Kai.
Yeah.
Scott Custer asked about Radford money line at
gosh.
Notre Dame.
What?
Is that worth a swing? Plus 19, plus 20, a little sprinkle, Matthew. Notre Dame trying to figure things out. New point guard and JJ Starling. Everybody else mostly back around him. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I see the value. I think the number is a little too high. I just take Radford with the points. Money line, maybe, sure. A little Darius Nichols magic. But yeah, I think I agree with his general direction that this number does feel high. And I think Notre Dame could be a good fade, just like the first few weeks of the year.
Yeah, Radford got down big to Marquette, but then made a big late run to come back in and backdoor it. So I think maybe we could see something similar than feisty there. Kai, to you, Kevin Gengler asking about Sacred Heart at Rutgers. Caleb McConnell still officially out. Rutgers thrashed Columbia in the opener. Sacred Heart barely got by Hartford. Also, a little injury note. Aiden Carpenter, we have to wait and see his status for Sacred Heart because he left during the second half. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, the number felt high initially to me, but I don't want to bet Sacred Heart because I was not impressed by that effort against Hartford. And with Rutgers' defensive effort, even without McConnell against Columbia, now Columbia missed 23 pointers, so there's a little bit of luck to that. It scared me too much to be like, you know what? I don't need it. 20.5 feels high, but I'm not backing the dog.
Yeah, this Rutgers, they were so bad as a big favorite last year in the non-con, but the kind of opening statement they made this season was like, maybe I don't need to auto fade them as a big favorite. Matthew, Battle of Arizona. NAU headed to Arizona State. The Sun Devils squeaked by Tarleton in the opener. We talked about on the show how good of an underdog that Tarleton team is. Do you think NAU can hang around the same way?
Yeah, I went back and forth on this. I look at that Tarleton game, and part of me is like, yeah, I don't like Arizona State as a large favorite. But I also look at that as like, that's exactly what the Texans will do to big schools, all non-conference. And Northern Arizona does not give anywhere near the resistance defensively, athletically, just effort, like, tenacious competitiveness that Tarleton has. So I'm torn. I think it's kind of a big number, but I can see Arizona State kind of blossoming out of that Tarleton shell that they were caught in that first game.
Yeah, this one's the number one for me. If you can get it below 15, I would be interested in Arizona State, but above 15.5, it's just value matters, and I can't quite get there on that. I believe that is it for our chat mob section. Apologies if there were games you wanted us to get to. We'll be back full form with the chat tomorrow. We'll get to everything. There's 76 games tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to go through.
Too many.
Yes, too many.
Hey, Jim, keep the mic, man. Why don't you give us your best bet?
I would love to. Kai, the Undertaker's taking an under. The Citadel and Presbyterian. Need to double check the number on it officially right now, but I think the Citadel is going to play a lot slower this year, needless to say, without Baucom running up and down anymore. Presbyterian loves to play in the mud. They want gross half-court type of games. So I think this one's going to be a slog. Citadel will play that slow-down pace with them, kind of lacking offensive talent too. So I'm going with the under there. I haven't found
133.5, Jim.
133.5. We'll sign it up. That is my best bet for the day. Kai, you want to reiterate yours?
Mine was Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky over 158. Very high total. It's at the end of the steam in the market, but it's going to be a lot of possessions. Matthew.
Yeah, from the hip here, I'm going with Omaha, except on the road. So Romaha, as we've
you mean 1-0 ATS Omaha?
That's right. Cover against the Beakers. What can't they do? Nothing is stopping this team right now as they're catching a bananas 17 against Nebraska ball. What?
17.5.
17.5. I'll take the hook. I don't even need it, but I'll take it. Thank you. 17.5. Boom. Lock it in. And I kind of like this Nebraska team, but 17 as a large favorite. No.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Don't know if Walker's going to be back.
Walker's dicey too. Yeah.
They've been not good in covering bye games for the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. I think they could this could be a close game. I'm not going to go money line sprinkles, but I think this game should be a lot closer than 17.
I just feel like they're Jekyll and Hyde in Nebraska. I think we've seen them blow out pretty bad teams before in the non-con. We're like, oh, Nebraska. But we've also seen them like lose to bad
outright.
teams.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe there is, if it's close, then the money line is potentially enticing.
Yes. Well, that does it. You heard it here. We will hopefully be back tomorrow in full force with YouTube if they cooperate with us. Thanks again. Shout out to BetRivers. Shout out to Field of 68. Check out the Field of 68 store, code champions for some sick merch for 20% off. And of course, BetRivers, 14 parlays, 20% off or 20% boost as well. We'll see you tomorrow at noon Central on Friday to talk more basketball.